Now, let's remove the main processor in preparation for installation of the Warped Pinball board. We want to take this part out here. This is the main game processor. So a couple ways to do that. We can use a small screwdriver and come at it from the sides, from the ends of the chip, and gently pry it up. I emphasize gently. You want to move the chip up slowly. Don't push too hard. You don't want to jerk it around and bend pins, right? The object of the game is to get the part out without bending pins. So gently from the ends is one option. If it's really stuck in there good, or if it's so tight you can't get a small screwdriver under the lip right here, you can try my technique of a pair of sharp tweezers. This can bend the tweezers, but sometimes it's worth it. With the tweezers, if they're sharp, you can go in from the side, actually between the pins, like this. Catch the edge of the chip and gently pry up. You just want to move it a little bit, and then move over, go between pins, pry up, work your way around. Get the tweezers in there, and pry around as you go. Usually if you've moved it a little bit, now you can start with the screwdriver. Like I said, I like to just take one side up a little bit and go to the other side. Sometimes two screwdrivers works well. You can experiment a little bit. You just want it to come up even and take it out carefully like that. Okay, now you're ready to install the Warped Pinball System 11 board. First, we're going to take our pin strip headers, these 20 pin strip headers, and place them in the existing socket on your System 11 main board. So I'll put this one in, start pushing it down. Now you can work your way from one end to the other, pushing pretty hard to make sure that's seated all the way in, okay? And then we'll do the other side, of course. Make sure you've got it lined up. Give it a good push. And then it helps if you look at it from the side and just make sure all the pins are fully seated. It can take a little bit of force to get those into the old sockets. Now we're going to take the 40-pin processor socket and we'll mount that on top. Get it all lined up. The notch goes on this side. That's technically pin 1, but it doesn't really matter as long as you install the board the right way. Get this lined up and then push it down. And like the pin strip headers, you can kind of work your way across it if you need to and push it down pretty hard. Take a look at the sides and the bottom, make sure that's fully seated. Okay. Now, let's get our board ready. We're going to take the foam off the back of our Warped Pinball board, and we'll take this adhesive board mount and get it set up here, mounted to this one mounting hole. So take one of your plastic screws and line it up and screw it into the standoff. And just barely snug so you can rotate this a little bit. You kind of want it about like that. And then we're going to peel the backing off. So when we mount this, the board mount is going to ride along and contact this chip here to give the top of the Warped Pinball board support up at this end, okay? So when you're putting this in, pay attention to the pins on the bottom. You want to get them lined up, make sure they're not hanging over, but they're lined up with the holes on the socket. Look at both sides. Maybe give it a little wiggle to make sure they're starting in the holes, and then you press this down. And that should go in quite a bit easier than the other sockets because it's new pins going into a new socket. Tried to make that part easy. And you'll see the board mount is here, stuck to the top of this chip. You may need to push on it just a little bit to make sure the adhesive stuck on that chip, and that'll support that board at the top end. Now the last thing you need to do before putting in the processor is let's attach this clip in your reset circuit. You go over here and find R56 and R55, and between them, they're connected on the inside. You can see the little trace on the board right here that connects R55 and R56. You clip the lead on that inside part, either resistor, but towards the inside, very important to get that in the right spot. Okay. Now that that's in place, I like to give it a little wiggle and make sure that hook is caught on the resistor lead. The last thing you have to do is take the main processor chip that we pulled out of the board and place it into the Warped Pinball System 11 board. Okay, so I like to put one side of the pins in and then see how this side lines up. They're a little bit over, so I'm just going to push on the chip a little bit this way to get those to line up. Just kind of get them started, then I'm going to check and make sure they're all inside and they'll look like they're lining up. And then we'll push that with 2 thumbs straight down here at seat, and your hardware installation is done.